Let's go ahead and dive on in here. We are chapter 3 of Revelation today. Maybe we'll get to 4, we'll see. Reminder, chapters 1, 2, and 3 are kind of all of the same set piece. John has some introductory stuff in 1, and then he has this vision of Jesus at the end of chapter 1, described very much in terms of Daniel's descriptions of God the Father and of the Son of Man. And then Jesus has 7 messages he wants to send to the 7 churches of what we call Turkey, of Western Turkey, Southwest Turkey, Asia Minor. And these messages are going in order, kind of around the circuit, starting with Ephesus, the biggest one. 2 of them are very positive, 2 of them are negative, and 3 of them are a little bit mixed. And so he had 4 of those letters to the churches, messages to the churches in chapter 2, and we'll have 3 more here today. And 2 of them are very, very negative, including one we'll start with Sardis. So we'll get to that in a second. And Smyrna and Philadelphia, we said, were the 2 that are really positive, and we'll get to Philadelphia in a bit here. All right, so chapter 3. And this is one of those loaded ones to one of those churches that's not doing well. To Sardis, to the angel of the church in Sardis, write, these are the words of him who has the 7 spirits of God and the 7 stars. Again, these introductory passages, introductory salutations to each of these letters uses some image of Jesus from Revelation that we've already seen, or occasionally from something we'll see later on in the book. But Jesus has the 7 spirits, 7 stars in his hand. We saw that in chapter 1. All right. The one thing we know about Sardis is it had a very, very, very large cemetery, and maybe the angel, maybe Jesus is playing off that here to talk about how dead they are spiritually. And so the message is not positive. It starts out just boom. I know your works. You have the name of being alive, but you are dead. Youch. You are a spiritually dead community. You may have others fooled. They may think you're a going concern. They may think you're alive. You may have that reputation, but I know better. You're dead. You're dead. So it's time to rise, time to wake up and strengthen what remains and is on the point of death. For I have not found your works perfect in the sight of my God. So there's still a chance, even though you are spiritually dead, you can revive. We are a faith that preaches resurrection, and it's possible even for a church that's on life support at this point. You're dead, but you can wake up. We can get the paddles applied, and get you back. The other interesting thing about wake up, Sardis could be, if I said to the church in Pearl Harbor, right, don't be asleep when the planes come. Sardis got invaded twice, and they were asleep at the switch both times. These invading armies surprised them. So that could be a piece that is a slight dig here as well. Maybe not, but it's quite possible that's a piece here. So wake up, be on the lookout, be alert, and don't stay dead in the sleep. And then verse 3, remember then what you've received and heard. You know what you're supposed to do. Now you need to obey it and repent. And if you do not wake up, I'll come like a thief, and you'll not know at what hour I will come to you. Surprise inspection, surprise invasion, that kind of thing. We use those kind of images a lot during the Advent season of Jesus coming suddenly. It's also in the Gospels that way. All right, so that's pretty negative. Pretty negative. It's hard to be, you're dead, you know what you're supposed to do, you're not doing it. Okay, please do, but for now, you're not doing great. And yet there's a glimmer of hope here. Yet, verse 4, you still have a few persons in Sardis who have not soiled their clothes. They will walk with me dressed in white, for they are worthy. So there is a small doesn't say how big, but presumably fairly small, faithful remnant in Sardis that has not committed sin, not walked away. They've not soiled their clothes. They're still dressed in white. And the white robes, remember, white robes are symbols of purity. In the early church, you would put on white robes at your baptism. We don't want to go too far down this road, but the early church in the Greco-Roman world practiced nude baptism, and they would segregate it by sex. The males would go first, the women later. But they give you a white robe when you came up out of the water. Jewish Christians didn't like that, but Gentile Christians, that became fairly standard for a while. All right, so the white is your new identity, your baptismal identity. You are purified. So they haven't stained themselves. Their identity is still good. They haven't sinned. They haven't fallen away. They're still as pure as they were at their conversion, at their baptism. And if you conquer, verse 5, you will be clothed like them in white robes. I always think of this like, Johnny isn't doing that. Why can't you be more like Johnny? Well, these few people are doing what they're supposed to do. Why can't you be more like them? If you do, you too can have the pure identity again. You can renew your faith, renew your walk with me. And I will not blot your name out of the book of life. That's kind of a backhanded thing here, but it's a pretty serious threat. We'll see the book of life later in the book of Revelation. Those who are faithful have their names written in this register, this roll, this city. The book of life, the cultural parallel there would be like a city register, register of citizens within the city. If you don't shape up, then we're going to remove you from that roll. So that's a pretty serious threat. So if you do act like them, if you do conquer, then I'll not have to remove you. Okay, so it sounds like you'll be removed as the default at this point. You're so far gone, but you can still pull it out. You can still turn it around. I'll not blot your name out, and even more, I'll confess your name before my fathers and before the angels. This is part of Jesus's ministry of being our, for lack of a better term in our culture, district attorney, our advocate, the one who speaks on our behalf to his Father. So I'll if you confess me, I'll confess your name. And Jesus also says that in the Gospels. And then the conclusion that's standard for these 7 letters: let anyone who has an ear listen to what the Spirit is saying to the church.
So Jim.
Yes, please, Gordon.
I'm assuming that in this current culture, where they had fallen to was immorality, cheating, the way they dealt with people, lying, all of that. In other words, it was just they had gone back into the old way of living. Is that what?
Probably a big piece of it, but probably another piece of the old way of living that we don't hit on our radar screen. We take these as very personal sins, and it probably is a lot of that, going back to your pagan living. But a big piece of pagan living is worshiping idols. And so that's probably undergirding all of this all the way through. And the biggest idol that Revelation is worried about, that we'll see later, is worshiping Caesar as a god, which is the huge no-no. And it was the thing that got, if you remember our history of Christianity last year, that was the biggest sticking point between the church and the Roman Empire. When the requirement came to worship Caesar as a god, most Christians drew the line in the sand and said, no, we can't do that. The culture didn't understand that. They thought it was like standing for the Pledge of Allegiance or standing for the national anthem. And we've had some controversies of that, people taking a knee during the national anthem. Christians not worshiping Caesar as a god was regarded that way. You're not doing your patriotic duty here. So that's probably a piece of it as well. Jimmy.
Just throw a little incense on the altar. It doesn't matter if you really think that's
all you have to do once a year, you have to show up at Caesar's temple. You got to take a pinch of incense and pop it on the charcoal, and you're good. That's all you have to do to be a faithful Roman citizen. Go through that little religious ritual once a year. And I've said this before, but it bears repeating. Christians, and to an extent Judaism, were unique in the ancient world. Nobody in the ancient world cared what you believed religiously as long as you did what you were supposed to do. As long as you showed up at the temple, burned the pinch of incense, you are good. As long as you I don't know if Zeus is real or not, but we need to make sure Zeus is worshiped. I don't know if Caesar's really a god or not, but it shows my loyalty to the Roman Empire by worshiping this god once a year, one little pinch of incense. What's the harm in that? Well, you shall have no other gods in my face or before me, as the Ten Commandments say. That's worshiping somebody else's god. That's divided loyalties. And the other piece too, and this is also hard for our culture. How many of you have one credit card in your wallet? How many of you have more than one credit card? Oh, you horrible, you're not loyal to your bank. We carry credit cards from multiple banks a lot of times and don't think anything of it. They treated their gods the same way. Doesn't matter, okay, so you worship Zeus, you worship Athena, you worship these other gods. It's no big deal. You're diversifying your portfolio religiously. There's only one credit card that should be used, and only one bank you can go to, and if you have an account anywhere else, you're not faithful. That was off their radar screen, except for Christians, and they dug the line in the sand, and that cost a lot of them their lives as these centuries went on. But that kind of persecution is starting to crank up here. As we remember from our history of the church last year, it'll be really bad a couple centuries later. But this is kind of the beginning of that persecutorial period here. Other questions here? Yeah, go ahead, Gordon.
So if
And
we translated it into the 21st century, it could be like going to church, I do my religious thing, and then I do whatever I want to during the week.
that's a good spiritual parallel for us. Yeah. Yes. Bob.
I was just saying, or maybe not going to church because you're worshiping football.
Worshiping God on the golf course or youth sports or
Whatever it is that's keeping you.
Sure.
Actually, the question I was going to ask is, do we know, since Sardis was dead, we know how long it was until the church in Sardis faded away?
All these churches eventually are going to fade away. As I was reading one article, Sardis is one of the cities that actually collapsed first in that region. I mentioned this last week. The irony is that the two most negative church reports are also in two cities that faded off the map quicker than the others. And the two that are most loyal faded off the map last, which is perhaps ironic, or perhaps the church was leavening and helping to change the culture in those cities and making it last longer. Who knows? But it is an intriguing piece here. All right, so church in Sardis. So not a good report card for them. All right, but we will get a good report card here. So we got bad, good, bad here. So Philadelphia, and this is not in Pennsylvania. I wouldn't ever give them a good report card. Nasty fans there. But anyway, if you boo Santa Claus, then you're a nasty bunch. Anyway, so the angel of the church in Philadelphia, right? These are the words of the Holy One, the true One, who has the key of David, who opens and no one will shut, who shuts and no one opens. This is Isaiah. This is part of the power of the Messiah coming. We sing about this in Advent. This is a verse, No come, O come, Emmanuel. The one who has David's key, the one who has the power to open the gates of heaven, to open God's kingdom, or to shut the doors, shut the gates. And no one has the power to override that. No one can open it if you shut it. No one can shut it if that messianic figure opens it. So these are my words. And some have suggested that since Philadelphia is kind of on the eastern part of this circuit, and they were regarded as a gateway to the east, we're a hub city in Lubbock. They were regarded as a gateway to the east. Maybe there's a play on that, maybe not. But we do have a nice report for them. So Jesus says, I know your works, verse 8. Look, I have set before you an open door, which no one is able to shut, because I've got the power to do that. And I know that you have but little power, and yet you have kept my name, and kept my word, and have not denied my name. Um, let's hold off on the synagogue for a second here. I mentioned last time that there is an interpretive school, which I disagree with, that sees these as different ages in the church's history. And so you get to Sardis and everybody's fallen away except for this tiny faithful remnant. Protestant Reformation. Okay, this faithful remnant resurrects a dead church. All right. So perhaps in that schema, Philadelphia is, the Protestant church a couple centuries later, being faithful, all that stuff. Not denying the name, even though you have little worldly power. Well, some of those churches got quite a bit of worldly power later on, but that's part of that schema. And I'll say more about that with Laodicea, because that's the one that's always ascribed to modern American culture. I don't agree with that interpretation, but you can see where you could make that fit if you wanted to. All right, you have little power, and yet you kept my word, have not denied my name. You're faithful. And so even though as a church, as a group in this city, you don't seem to be important at all, you are wonderfully important because you are faithful. And then we have one of these things, again, that's something's happening with this church. Apparently, the local synagogue has been cracking down on them, or maybe it's some Jewish Christians within the church that are causing some issues. And we know about that from Paul's letters. There are Jewish Christians and Gentile converts, and there is often some cultural clash here. And we get a pretty strong statement here. I will make those of the synagogue of Satan who say that they are Jews and are not, but are lying. I will make them come and bow down at your feet, and they will learn that I have loved you. So we're not exactly sure what the context of that statement is. I would be very hesitant of applying this to all Jewish people in the world, which some have used this verse to do that. I think that's a horrible misuse of this verse. I think it is a local situation in the church in Philadelphia. They're dealing with some persecution probably from the synagogue or from Jewish Christians. But the hint here is that they're not really acting as my people. They say they're Jews, they say they're part of my chosen people, but they're not acting that way. But we'll make sure that flips. They will know that I'm preferring and loving you. Again, this is a huge problem in the history of the church. This is one of the proof text verses for anti-Semitism and things, and so I want us to be very careful about that. I think it really is applying to a very localized situation. And then I want to try to reverse something else too. So far, so good. Verse 10, but because you have kept my word of patient endurance, I will keep you from the hour of trial that is coming on the whole world to test the inhabitants of the earth. All right, verse 10, John 3:10 here, Revelation 3:10, is often used as a proof text for the rapture. I've talked about the rapture some before. I don't want to go off on too deep a tangent here, too deep a rabbit hole, but this is often a rapture proof text. Reminder, the doctrine of the rapture is something that really is less than 200 years old, 1830s, I think. And it really didn't start to gain popularity until early 1900s, and even more so in the 1960s and 70s and 80s amongst some Christian groups. So it really was a very late idea in the history of the church. Actually, it's a strange idea when you really think about it. Revelation is all about keeping faithful in the midst of persecution, and people are being killed and dying as they're faithful. And so the idea of some kind of miraculous rescue before there's any kind of trouble doesn't really fit that well. But some people say, "Oh, but look, I'll keep you from the hour of trial. I'm gonna beam you out before that hour of trial is coming on the whole world." I want to push back on this. Trey, you have your Greek up there?
Yeah.
All right. So the verb keep you from, or keep you out of. Tereso, okay. The word tereso, the verb is only used one other time in the entire New Testament. So I want you to keep your, so it sounds, if you just had this verse, it sounds like I'm going to keep you or pull you out of any kind of time of trial. Like I say, it's only used in one other place, and it's used, we said there is some relationship most likely between John and the epistles of John and Revelation. Whether it's the same writer or coming out of the same general community, the theology is very similar. And so I'd like to flip back to John 17. So keep your finger here. John 17:15. This is the only other time this Greek verb is used in the New Testament. Has a different ending here. Instead of tereso, it's tereses, but it's the same verb.
What, John?
John 17:15. John 17:50 says, Jesus is praying the night right to the Last Supper before he's going to be arrested. Jesus is praying for his followers. I am not asking you to take them out of the world, but I ask you to protect them from the evil one. And if we just had English here, we'd think that the take them is the verb, but actually tereses, Trey goes with which words? Can you see?
It's translated as you should.
You should keep them or protect them. Protect them
Keep them
from evil. Protect them from evil. So Jesus is saying very directly, I'm not asking you to rescue them. I'm not asking you to take them away from all the trials that are coming. I'm not asking you to take them out of the world, but I'm asking you to protect them from the evil one in the midst of the world. And that's a fascinating idea there. And so I push back very hard against John, or Revelation 3:10 is a proof text for rapture. Because from John's gospel, it seems Jesus is not asking, I'm going to have my followers, the Father beam my followers out. Rather, I want God to protect them in the midst of the trials they're going to suffer. And the idea that we'll be rescued, I understand the rationale for it. When things are tough, beam me up, Scotty. Calgon, take me away. Life is tough. God, wouldn't it be nice if God got me out of here? Yeah, it would be. You better believe it. And the same thing. But that just doesn't, that you have to really twist a bunch of scriptural verses away from their meaning to get to that. In fact, in the Synoptic Gospels, Jesus talks about two women will be grinding, and one will be taken, and one will be left. The taken is not rapture; the taken is killed, and one's going to be left behind. One's going to die, and one's going to be alive. Whole different flip of things. So, Dick, what do you want to say there?
I was going to mention the bumper stickers that were popular some years ago in case of rapture.
This car is driverless. Yeah. And my favorite, in case of rapture, I get your car. I like that one too. Yeah. It is a very, very late idea in the history of the church. And I think if you go too far down that line, then it really degrades the wonderful example of all the faithful martyrs we've had throughout the history of Christianity. Folks that have endured, who've given their lives, who did not get rescued miraculously from the time of trial, but went through the trial and came through it faithfully. And so I do push back on that. One of my New Testament professors, who was actually my most conservative New Testament professor, most conservative Bible professor I had, actually wrote a book called Jesus Against the Rapture. And he goes through all the proof texts that are supposedly, there are from the Gospels, where Jesus is supposedly suggesting the rapture, and he shows, no, it really is flipped. So don't buy into that, is Bob Jewett's thesis there.
So did it mean something specific for the Church of Philadelphia? Did they escape persecution somehow?
That I don't know. Part of the problem, Mark, when we look at these 7 churches, this is the hardest part. because we're looking at little tiny communities of which very little historical record has been preserved, except for these mentions in the book of Revelation. We have ideas about the bigger picture, the whole region. We have some archaeological details that we can get, but as far as the history of the church in Philadelphia, that's a good question. What's the real reference? How is this fulfilled? It's a mystery. That's one of those interesting things that maybe we can learn that in heaven. I'm hoping to do some time travel in heaven. I think that'll be. I hope that's a piece of things you can go back and look. I'm fascinated by history.
I guess that fact is
Go
kind of
cookie.
what leaves it open to people to impose all sorts of meanings.
Well, and that's you bet, because these are things that we're not exactly sure of the historical context, and it is the Rorschach test that okay, you can make anything out of it. It's like the old joke. The guy was getting the ink blot test at the psychiatrist's office, and he kept coming with all kinds of graphic images sexually. And the guy said, "You really have a fixation on sex?" And he says, "I'm not the one with the dirty pictures." Anyway, yeah, you can put anything you want in there. All right. Where was I for that? Okay, so verse 11. Okay, so hang on in the midst of persecution. I'm coming soon. Hold fast to what you have so that no one may seize your crown. If you conquer, I will make you a pillar in the temple of my God. And a pillar is not only an important piece of the building, a pillar is an essential part of the building. We have columns out front. They're decorative, they're hollow, and they're there to be pretty out front. But a pillar, I mean, we've got structural pieces in here that are holding the roof up. If you endure, not only will you be part of my temple, you will be an essential part of my temple. So I'll make you a pillar there, and you will never go out of it. You will always be with the Father, with me. And I will write on you the name of my God, and the name of the city of my God, the New Jerusalem, that comes down from my God out of heaven, and my own new name. So you will get my name, my identity, all the benefits of my sonship. You will carry the name of God. You will be signed, sealed, and delivered. No puns intended. You will be inscribed, sealed up, all of that stuff, if you just endure. So please keep on that right track. And then the concluding, let anyone who has an ear to listen, listen to what the Spirit is saying to the churches. So far, so good. Let me get chapter 4. Let's see. Let's tackle Laodicea first. So Laodicea, you hear it both ways. To the church in Laodicea, write the words of the Amen, the so be it, the verily, verily, the faithful and true witness, the origin of God's creation, or the beginning of God's creation, the arche. Very first word in John's, second word in John's gospel, en arche, in the beginning. So the origin, the place where God's creation comes from, that's who Jesus is. Laodicea, by the way, had some hot springs they were famous for, and that's played with here. I know your works. You are neither cold nor hot. I wish you were either cold or hot. So because you are lukewarm, neither cold nor hot, I'm about to spit you out of my mouth. Okay, what's this about? Well, think about one of these things. What's the purpose of cups like this, or cups like Abby's?
Keep drinks hot or cold.
Keep hot things hot and cold things cold. We don't want things that are this temperature. We want things that are either icy or steaming. Just lukewarm water. Who wants a cup of lukewarm water? Well, if you're thirsty, if you're out cutting the grass and the water's turned lukewarm, okay, I'll take it. I'll drink out of a garden hose, whatever. If you're coming out of the desert, I'll even drink a Dr. Pepper if I have to, coming out of the desert, but usually I stay away from that stuff. So stay away from Dr. Pepper, drink only Diet Mountain Dew and Diet Coke. Anyway, it's like The Simpsons where Homer is dying of thirst and he goes to a street vendor and what do you have? And he says, well, I have a can of Mountain Dew and a can of octopus juice. And he goes, oh, that's horrible. How can anybody think of drinking that stuff? Give me the octopus juice. Mountain Dew. Anyway, okay. It's got real orange juice. Never mind. Okay. So because you're lukewarm, neither cold nor hot, I'm going to spit you out of my mouth. So you have no character to you. You are letting the culture, you're letting the world dictate your temperature. You're not keeping your distinctiveness. You're just letting things crank back down to whatever blah middle ground there is. So you have nothing distinctive about you. And because of that, you're no good. I'm about to spit you out of my mouth. And I could, you can make that argument with the American culture these days. Okay, we're kind of lukewarm about our faith, whereas other parts of the world, Christianity is booming. In Europe and in North America, it's not. North America being, Canada and the United States, it's growing more in the Central America and all that. But the north part of North America and in Europe, we're at least we're ahead of Europe. Europe, it's really bad. But you're not being faithful. You just kind of let the culture take your distinctiveness and wear it down. So you're hardly distinguishable from the culture. What makes Christians unique? What makes your life unique in this world compared to your neighbors? Well, if you can't tell the difference between a Christian and a non-Christian in the culture, then maybe the Christians aren't being distinct enough. Maybe they're not living into their vocation as followers of Jesus Christ. So you can see where that argument's made. And verse 17, you can also see being applied to us spiritually. You say, I am rich, I have prospered, and I need nothing. Could that be our culture? Well, yeah, perhaps. We are so materially prosperous. And yet, even though you have this material prosperity, you do not realize that you are wretched, pitiable, poor, blind, and naked. And the blind and naked is probably a dig at the two big exports from Laodicea, which were textiles and ophthalmic ointment for your eyes. They were famous for their eye ointment and their clothing, their cloth that they would generate. So you think you're making money off this stuff, but you're really spiritually naked and blind. Yuck. And you think you're rich from all this and you need nothing, but you are deluding yourself. So complacency is a huge problem for the church in Laodicea. Therefore, I counsel you to buy from me gold refined by fire so that you may be rich. You don't need this earthly gold from your wonderful market economy. You need gold, spiritual gold that I can give you. And you'll need human textiles. You need white robes, my identity, my purity, to clothe you and keep the shame of your nakedness from being seen. And you need salve to anoint your eyes so that you may see, not the stuff you're selling at the local drugstore and exporting to CVS's all over the area, but some real stuff that helps you to see spiritually. But then there is a little bit of a nice piece. I reprove and discipline those whom I love. So there is some hope here. You need some discipline, and things may be bad for you for a while, but know that I love you. It's going to be for your own good. And be earnest, therefore. Be earnest as opposed to being lukewarm, but be hot or cold. Be something. Be earnest and repent. Change your ways. Listen, I am standing at the door knocking. This is often a famous image from this chapter of Revelation. There are paintings of it, Jesus knocking on the door. I want you. I want you to come back to me. So if you hear my voice and open the door, I will come in to you and eat with you and you with me. You can be part of my table fellowship. You can be part of the great heavenly banquet. And to the one who conquers, I will give a place with me on my throne, just as I myself have conquered and sat down with my Father on his throne. So there's great heavenly reward here. If you would just be earnest and don't be so self-satisfied, and don't let your wealth and your possessions insulate you from the spiritual poverty you really have. Let anyone who has an ear listen to what the Spirit is saying to the churches. How could they possibly apply that to our culture? I mean, that's us. I think, what do we need God for? What's the Cimarron? No. The Civil War movie that takes place in Western Virginia. Shenandoah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, there's a prayer. Is it Jimmy Stewart in that movie? Yeah, it is Jimmy Stewart. At the beginning of the movie, Father, thank you. Yeah, his wife's gone, and she was the Christian in the family. He really isn't. Yeah, Father, we thank you for this food, even though we're the ones that went out and plowed the ground, and we put the seed in, and we sweated to keep the weeds away, keep the crows away, and we harvested it. But thank you anyway. I think that's our American prayer too. Oh God, thank you. By the way, we're doing pretty well. But in case you had anything maybe marginal to do with our success, thank you anyway. Okay, thoughts or questions about any of that here? So I do not buy that these are stages of church history. I think there are spiritual lessons in all 7 letters for us, but I also think the number 7 also for our culture does have some real application. So I can see how you could come up with that idea and defend it. All right, well, let's shift gears here a little bit. We'll get into a little bit of chapter 4. So remember what's happened here. In fact, let's flip back to chapter 1 here, just so we're clear. Blowing up Bible notes here. Okay. So 1:9. Where did all this start? Well, John is on Patmos. And verse 10, he's in the Spirit on the Lord's day, and he heard a voice behind him like a loud voice. And he looked and he saw, verse 12, 7 golden lampstands. In the middle of it was a son of man that looked like the son of man from Daniel, and also the Father on the throne from Daniel. Interesting altogether. But so geographically, where's all this happening? Spiritually, he's on Patmos, he's worshiping, and right there where he's worshiping, Jesus comes, the 7 lampstands appear there. So kind of as far as location so far in Revelation, John has been where he is. Okay, he's seeing another spiritual reality. He's having a vision. He's having Jesus talk to him, and he's being told things to write to these 7 churches. But so far, we haven't gone anywhere off this little rock, this little island in the Aegean Sea. All right, that'll start to switch. And remember, we talked about in apocalyptic works, part of the theme of apocalyptic works was to show you what's going on elsewhere, to take you backstage in some way or another and show you what's really going on behind the scenes. And so we're going to get one of the first great shifts in location here in the book of Revelation with the beginning of chapter 4. So far, so good? All right. So we're going to shift where? To heaven, to God's throne room. Verse 4, chapter 4. After this, I looked, and there in heaven, a door stood open. A door stood open. And actually, this is one of those bad grammar things. A door is standing open always, forever and ever, kind of, sort of. It's one of those things to really highlight that the door is now opened up. Perhaps something along the same lines as in the Gospels, when the veil in the temple is torn in two, the separation, the wall, the door between heaven and earth is ripped open. And here it's standing open permanently. And John's invited to come up and see it. So the door in heaven is open. And the first voice, which I had heard speaking to me like a trumpet back in chapter 1, said, "Come up here, and I will show you what must take place after this." Is this an angelic voice? Is it God's voice? Yeah, it's some kind of divine messenger or divine voice. The same one that talked to John at the beginning here. And remember, in Scripture, especially the Old Testament, but also the New Testament here, very much in the Old Testament, you were never clear when God appeared to someone or an angel appeared, it was kind of the same thing. When the angel appeared to Abraham by the oaks of Mamre, at times it seems like it's an angel, at times it seems like God speaking directly, and you're not quite sure which is which. And you kind of get some of that duality with Revelation here. Jimmy.
And the voice like a trumpet also at Mount Sinai, when the people hear, the only time they kind of hear and communicate directly with God, they basically hear a loud trumpet.
It is a
Yeah.
trumpet blasting type of voice. Not that the voice is a trumpet, but it has that trumpet tone or timbre, whatever Dick would describe it as. The voice has that trumpeting nature. All right, so come up here. I'm going to show you what must take place after this. So we are now shifting our view to heaven. And let's not take this for granted. Revelation goes up to heaven a lot. Okay, he gets to see. He gets to go to heaven. What mortals get to go up to God's throne room and see what's going on? Whoa, this is the biggest backstage pass ever. To see what's happening in heaven while you're still on earth. Not after you die, but while you're still on earth, to get to go and see what's really happening. It's also like going to mission control or the control room. This is where the action is. This is where decisions are being made. I want to be in the room where it happens. A room where it happens. This is the room where it happens. God's throne room is the place in the universe where things are decided, where things generate from. There's going to be a lot of stuff that goes out. There are going to be messages and angels and seals and trumpets and bowls and all kinds of stuff that's going to come out to do God's will, but it's all going to come from heaven, from the throne, and go out to earth. So John is seeing something amazing here, and we don't want to underestimate that. So far, so good. All right. And at once I was in the Spirit, and there in heaven stood a throne with one seated on the throne. And the one seated there looks like jasper and carnelian. And around the throne is a rainbow that looks like an emerald. So we've got God's place here. Jasper and carnelian are kind of this reddish look. Rainbow is all kinds of colors. That also looks greenish, the color of life. But don't just take these literally. Remember what a rainbow is in Genesis. The rainbow is a sign of God's promise, God's covenant. And so God's covenant, God's promise is surrounding everything. It's right there. And emerald, the color of life, surrounds God's throne. And keep a finger there. And just real quick. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 1 here. We'll come back to Ezekiel chapter 1 for the four creatures next week. But let's look kind of at 126. Ezekiel 1, we don't want to take this completely as a parallel, because the glorious thing in Ezekiel 1 is Ezekiel has a vision of God's throne, but it's not in Jerusalem. It's a throne that's on wheels while they're in captivity in Babylon. It's a chariot image with a gigantic chariot with a gigantic throne on top of it. That says basically God is mobile. God's reign is not constrained by national boundaries and borders, which everyone knew it was. Your God's power stopped at the river or at the mountain range or wherever your boundary was. But God shows up even in the heart of the enemy kingdom that's captivating these people. And so we'll skip over all the wheels part. We'll come back to the four creatures next week. But let's go to 26 here. And we get similar images. It's not identical, but it's reminiscent. 126, above the dome over the heads of all these angels and creatures, there was something like a throne in appearance like sapphire. And seated above the likeness of a throne was something that seemed like a human form. I love Ezekiel here. He never says, I saw God. He doesn't even say, I see God's throne, but I see something like a throne and something like a human type on that throne. And upward from what appeared like the loins, I saw something like gleaming amber, something that looked like fire enclosed all around. And downward from what looked like loins, I saw something that looked like fire, and there was splendor all around, like a bow in a cloud on a rainy day, like a rainbow in the clouds. Such was the appearance of the splendor all around. So we're getting very much this kind of descriptive language of God's throne revelation. And I can't not do my favorite part of Ezekiel, the very last half verse. This was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. This is one of my favorite little things. This is the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. Ezekiel is like, hey, I saw God, he's exactly like this. I see something that kind of appears like the likeness of God's glory. And God is somewhere in the midst of all that glory. It's the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. There are three protective layers. Ezekiel's not going to claim, I saw God directly. He looks exactly like this. We'll look at Isaiah 6 next week. And Isaiah also, I saw God, but there's smoke, and I can only really see the hem of his garment. The rest is obscured. The appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. So John is getting some of that here too. Some of these same, we got rainbows, we've got colors, we've got all kinds of sound and light show. They didn't have rock concert technology back then. So okay, well, red lights. Okay, I'll go. The star is coming out. Okay, we changed the lights to green. Big, but imagine in a culture that didn't have those kind of technologies, if you had a vision like this, how overwhelming and utterly splendid that kind of vision would be. It just, for a first century person, this would have to be an overwhelming type of vision.
John hedges less though, right?
John hedges less than Ezekiel does. Yeah. And part of it, I think, is that through Jesus Christ, John gets more access than in the Old Testament. I think that's very much a part of Revelation's intent. I think it's also part of the Johannine community's intent. In the Gospel of John, no one has ever seen God. It's God, the only Son, who is close to the Father's heart, who has made him known. How do you know God? You look at Jesus. You don't have to even go to the appearance of the likeness of the glory of God, as you can see God incarnate in Jesus Christ. So that's a great point, Mark.
Because if you did look at God directly, that's
In the Old Testament, there was such an overwhelming thing. If you looked at God, you died. And even Moses wasn't allowed to look at God. Moses was allowed to look at God's backside after his glory passed by. And God symbolically or spiritually kept a hand over a cleft in the rock to protect Moses until the fullness of glory passed by. And Moses got to see the backside of whatever that glorious presence is, but he couldn't take it full on. And even Isaiah, Isaiah chapter 6, and we'll look at that again next week too. Remember Isaiah's reaction? He's just getting a little glimpse of the hem of God's throne. There's smoke and he can't see anything. But what's his reaction? I'm dead. I am lost. Behold, I am lost. I am a man of unclean lips. I live with people of unclean lips. Yeah, I've seen God. I've seen the Lord of hosts. All right, good point. Good point. Well, 4:04 will be a good place to pick up there next time. Any final thoughts or comments here? Yes, Kathleen.
Sounds random, but I have a theory, and this is from people's stories or books or, just experience that people have had with an angel or God speaking to them, or they're in jail and they have a great revelation, or whatever. I really believe that God speaks to us or reveals himself to us or brings it or whatever in the way that we can understand it. And that has to do with kind of our own personal growth and our relationship with him. So if we went home this afternoon and every one of us saw an angel, they would all be different. But it would be something that we could understand. Does that make sense?
I think it does. And, I think a part of prophetic visions and apocalyptic visions in Revelation, is that piece where, whereas you're still blown away by it, there is some kind of human attempt to be able to name some things, some aspects about it. It had this glow to it. Is the glow red or green? Well, yeah, it's also kind of like a rainbow, but it has some aspects that I can kind of put a handle on, kind of get a name on. And I think the God does deal with billions of people in billions of different ways. I think that
It's not something that we're gonna run away from because we think it's a demon, it's gonna be.
we'll recognize it somehow as divine. Yeah. Yeah, you don't see people in the Old Testament or Revelation making the mistake of, it must be some kind of demonic presence that's trying to trick me or fool me. This is God, and because of that, I'm overwhelmed and I know I'm toast, or I know I'm in trouble, or I'm aware of my own sinfulness. Peter, even just seeing the human Jesus say something really wild, like throw the nets the other side of the boat and there are fish, Peter's reaction is, "Go away from me, Lord, I'm a sinful man." So we do have that human reaction. Okay, good. Well, we'll stop there. We'll pick up with 4:4 next time. And 4 is a pretty short chapter, so we'll probably get into chapter 5 as well. Yes. David, did you have something? Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Pat.
And I don't even know for sure exactly what it is, but I see somewhat of a disconnect between the life Jesus led and the depiction of Jesus in the throne room in heaven. He didn't need all these frills and all this material stuff that's described in the throne room and so forth.
That's an interesting thought. At one level, God comes amongst us as an ordinary human being. And certainly in the majority of the Gospels, that is how Jesus is depicted. And yet there are a couple of little weird glimpses at the same time, Dave, that are much more reminiscent of this. On the Mount of Transfiguration, 3 of the disciples are up there with Jesus, and they see him glowing with some of these divine aspects. And it's, again, one of those overwhelming experiences that they're probably really not even the way they try to describe it in the Gospels. I mean, that shining and brighter than any soap, whiter than any white cloth could be bleached. So there is that kind of glorious aspect of his nature is revealed there. And after the resurrection, while Jesus is an ordinary human and still is in some ways after the resurrection, he still carries the wounds of his crucifixion, and yet there's something else about him too. He's able to appear and disappear. Locked rooms are no problem. It's something different as well. And so, I think a part of the good news of Revelation, as well as of the Gospels, is that God does meet us where we are. And yet there's more to the reality of the world than just what we see. And there's more to Jesus than what we just see in the human rabbi, the human teacher. C.S. Lewis, if you just take Jesus as a rabbi, then you really can't do that, because anybody that claims the things he claimed must have been crazy. And so either he's the Lord or he's making false claims. And so there's always some aspect of Jesus that's more than just the human being, just the human teacher. But your point is good. This is a different way of looking at Jesus. I mean, sword coming out of the mouth, all these symbolic images, all that stuff is different. But it's also, we don't have time to get into Platonism and all. But part of Plato's worldview that certainly influences the early church, heavy in the book of Hebrews, is that there's a reality we see and a greater reality right behind it. And so if this is a chair, my lazy boy is also a chair. But there's some kind of super chairness that exists that this chair participates in, my lazy boy at home participates in, the seat in my car participates in, that's bigger than any of this. And so they would say, you see Jesus, the human being, and that's how God makes himself known, but certainly behind all that is some greater, huger, more wonderful spiritual reality. So don't know if that helps or not, but I think you're onto a piece of this. There's no doubt that is a piece of things here. Jimmy, real quick.
Yeah, and all the frills and stuff are God created too. It's not like humans had to mine the gold or anything. It just God made heaven the way it is. Right?
Right, right. I mean, it's all part of, this is part of God's creation. It's a part of God's creation that we don't usually have access to in the same way. And God comes to us. The good news is that God comes among us as one of us, because it is hard for us to imagine, see all those things, the heavenly realm. So, okay, well, we better stop there because we are pressed for time. Very good, y'all. 4-4 next time.